Kenya's tourism industry suffers serious cash flow problems at the height of terrorist attacks. We shall bring you the analysis shortly. It's the start of another trading week, and Global Business is bringing you all the latest developments on the business front. I am Penina Karibe, live from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. It is 9 p.m. here in East Africa, and wherever you're joining us from, welcome to the show. Also coming up, bad weather halts oil production in Libya as authorities shut down port to cope with the situation. And we explore the relationship between Comoros Island and the popular fragrance Chanel 5. Well, the World Bank Group president is set to announce ways of rebuilding the economies of Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone, the three West African nations hard hit by the Ebola outbreak. Jim Yong Kim said the bank has been working with partners in both the public and private sector to facilitate this. Focus will be on energy and building an efficient health system to stop outbreaks from escalating in the future. A recent report by the United Nations reveals that the Ebola outbreak has had a ripple effect on the economies of the three countries. West Africa as a whole may lose an average of at least $3.6 billion per year. That's between 2014 and 2017. This is because of a decrease in trade, closing of borders, flight cancellations, reduced foreign direct investment and tourism activity. Meanwhile, Senegal has scrapped visa requirements for foreign visitors and will cut taxes on airfares by half as it seeks to revive a tourism sector crippled by high costs and a regional Ebola outbreak. Maria Galang looks at opportunities in the industry and investors' reactions following the government announcement.
Tourism is one of the most dynamic sectors of Senegalese economy. It's ranked second after the fishing sector and generates about 100,000 jobs directly and indirectly. It represents 7% of the national wealth. Senegal has diversified national resources, rich cultural and artistic potential, a healthy economy and good human resources, as well as appropriate infrastructure harmonized with international standards. With these advantages, the country hopes to maintain its position as a touristic destination in West Africa. Investors joyfully greeted the government's new measure on visa-free travel due to come into effect on May 1st, 2015.
We welcome the decision taken by the head of state, who we consider as the main defender of the tourism sector. He presided over in Sali the launch of Senegal tourism season 2 years ago. By cutting taxes on airfares and scrapping visas for tourists, he demonstrated his willingness to support the sector.
The government decision has come at the right time. It is an encouraging sign and offers prospects for the future of tourism in our country. The sector is declining each year. We can spend 2 weeks without receiving any customer, and this is not good for our business.
Senegal's geographic location makes it a privileged platform and a gateway in West Africa. It's around 6.5 hours from New York by plane and only 5 hours from the main Europe capitals. It remains one of the sunniest countries in the world with low prevalence of HIV/AIDS. Senegal aims to achieve 1.5 million tourists in 2016 to increase its contribution to economic and social development. Another advantage of Senegal tourism is its long tradition of openness and hospitality, its political stability and diplomatic dynamism.
Tourist countries like Kenya, Mali, Mauritania and Tunisia are currently unstable. The only stable tourist destination in West Africa are Senegal, Gambia and Cape Verde Islands. If we adopt a good policy, we will be able to attract visitors from these countries.
Senegal tourism sector pursues the objective to foster a better structuring and improvement of the tourism services. However, actors say that they expect supporting measures from the government to revive the industry. Desiree Kane, CCTV, Dakar, Senegal.
Over in East Africa, tourists have started cancelling trips to Kenya after a terror attack by Islamist militants killed 148 people at a university. A string of attacks by Al-Shabaab has led to travel advisories by Western countries. That has brought the once lucrative tourism industry to its knees. Hotel owners have slashed employees' salaries in a bid to cut costs, but even that has not helped the situation.
The recent attacks may not have happened in Mombasa, but happening in Garissa, where we lost so many young people, which is very, very unfortunate. That equally paints the destination in negative picture. For us to survive in that, many hotels, one, have sent staff on unpaid leave. Some are actually laying off people, others are retrenching, some are actually taking pay cut.
In the meantime, a recent study on the impact of terrorism attacks on the tourism sector shows Kenya lost an estimated 157 million Kenya shillings in revenue per year for every 1 unit increase in fatality. The report uses data from 2010 to 2013 for a widely dispersed set of 124 countries of origin covering Europe, Asia, the Americas and Africa. The results suggest that a 1% increase in fatalities significantly reduces tourist arrivals by about 0.13%. This translates to a reduction of about 2,507.5 visitors per year. Now, Jessica Amenda, an associate research scientist at African Population and Health Research Center, is a co-author of the report, and she joins me now live in studio here in Nairobi. First, Jessica, how did you arrive at the conclusion that one death in an attack reduces tourist arrivals by 0.13%?
So basically what we did is take the data of arrivals from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics and also compute the number of deaths for every incident. And then we did lots of econometrics with it and found what the sensitivity of the tourist arrival is. So that's how we found that basically one more death costs 1.57 million.
And Jessica, according to your study, this drop is significant among the developed countries, which are a traditional source of tourists for Kenya. Is there a particular reason why the impact is less with emerging economies?
Yes, I suspect the reason is also related to travel advisory and how sensitive people are to this kind of advisories, because the point is, if you're coming for vacation, you probably don't want to put yourself in harm's way. But maybe this kind of demand is less sensitive for tourism, business trips, and so on.
And Jessica, how best can your study be used by industry players to counter these losses?
So, for instance, what we've done is to calculate what might be the impact of the recent attack in Garissa, where we lost 150 people to a terrorism event. And our model suggests that this single event, if it does nothing else happening in Kenya for the whole of the year, it would have cost us as a country something in the vicinity of 11 billion Kenyan shilling, or say 126 million US dollars. So that's a lot of money. So we're hoping that policymakers can then use this kind of number to estimate how much they can use, how much they can spend on security, and keep all of us safe, keep the destination safe so that tourists can enjoy coming here.
All right, Jessica Amenda, really great having you with us here on Global Business Things. Now let's turn our attention to the stock markets. We saw a splash of green across all the 4 main indices that we track here on Global Business. The benchmark NSE 20 share index edged up about 0.25%. Analysts say some foreign investors were rotating their investments out of shares such as Equity Bank and Barclays Bank of Kenya into stocks that had not seen such strong gains earlier in the year, such as Kenya Commercial Bank. But they say shares are still likely to face further pressure in the coming weeks, with the NSE 20 share index likely to head towards the 5,000 mark, where it would find support. Though the assessment for some is that investors for now saw the market overvalued above that level. Still ahead, but weather halts oil production in Libya as authorities shut down port to cope with the situation. And President-elect Muhammadu Buhari's APC party loses hotly contested governor's seat in oil-rich Rivers State. We analyze the implications.
Africa is on the move. 77 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies. We help you make sense of the fast-changing African business landscape. We take you where the business is happening.
Global Business, weekdays at this time on CCTV Africa.
This report by the African Green Revolution Alliance says climate change will slash food output. Within the next 30 years, the number of malnourished people in sub-Saharan Africa could jump nearly 40%.
You're watching Global Business. Welcome back. Libya has closed the eastern oil port of Hariga due to bad weather. According to an oil official, a tanker has been waiting for 2 days to dock at the port to 1 million barrels of crude. However, bad weather had made this impossible. Zwetina port, also located in the east, is expecting 2 tankers to load this week. Libya has managed to boost output to almost 600,000 barrels per day by reopening 2 western fields and keeping eastern ports open despite militant attacks and competing governments. But the oil sector is facing uncertainty. The internationally recognized government based in the east has unveiled plans to sell oil via a new state farm, bypassing the established entity in the capital, Tripoli. Let's get you some tech business news now. Well, more and more big businesses are looking to small startups for ideas that could take them to the next level. CCTV's Paulo Cabral looked into one interesting case in Brazil.
Many businesses these days begin with a laptop and a good idea. Some ideas are good enough, or their promoters lucky enough to get mentoring and funding to get those businesses up and running. That was the case for Guilherme Pinheiro.
O DIN é uma plataforma online para educação financeira.
Our app, called Dean, is a payment platform for children and teenagers to use in e-commerce purchases, as if they had an e-allowance from their family. It allows parents to control their children's expenses and also shops to sell without running any risks.
Que hoje está excluído do e-commerce.
Their project was picked up by credit card giant MasterCard. Company executives say innovation is key for growth in a changing business environment.
MasterCard is usually a payment company and was not recognized by startups or by developers as a partner. Our main goal is to be closer to these guys and provide them open APIs, financial incentives, acknowledgement in order to bring them closer to us and create these new products. They are already connected with other tech companies like Google, like Apple, like Microsoft, and it's our turn to be closer to them and to offer them all the pillars they need to help us to move forward.
For a startup, you need knowledge, funding, and market. This is my view in a nutshell of what are the big challenges for a startup. In Brazil, funding for startups is still very scarce. So there's still an opportunity, especially for investors who can appreciate the importance of technological innovation. The long-term trend in Brazil is for a very young and vibrant population to access the markets.
The smartphone and mobile internet markets are booming in Brazil, and people here are often described as early adopters. This means they are always interested in testing new products. Some companies investing in innovation have noticed and see Brazil as a fertile ground waiting to be explored. Paulo Cabral, CCTV, São Paulo.
Nigeria's People's Democratic Party, PDP, won the governorship election in All Rivers State with 1 million votes. The candidate of the All Progressive Congress, APC, the party of President-elect Muhammadu Buhari, received 124,896 votes. Tensions were high during the weekend polls, and voting had to be extended in some districts after violence and theft of electoral materials marred the process. Muhammadu Buhari does not take power as president until May 29th. So let's get more now from Deji Batmas, who joins us live from Lagos. Deji, the fight for Rivers State in this election was really a battle for control of the largest oil wells in the country. And the PDP, which really now makes up the opposition, has retained control of the state. So what does this mean for the country and the incoming government, given that this is a very significant state for the country economically?
Well, first of all, Penila, let me just say this, that the election in that state is still being contested, even though the result has been released and the PDP, INEC actually declared the PDP the winner of the election. But it's still the biggest talking point in this country today. The APC is still contesting it. The APC is actually calling for the cancellation of the election and calling for fresh election. But then, talking about the significance of the states, in terms of the oil, of course, you're right. Rivers State is one of the oil-producing states in Nigeria, but there's something we must understand, the way things function here. Now, if you are an oil-producing state, it does not mean the oil wells you have in that state actually belongs to you. It belongs to the entire country. But what happens is that oil-producing states in Nigeria actually enjoy what is called derivation. They are paid a certain percentage from what is gotten from their state. That's by means of derivation now. And what they get is about 13% at the moment. That's what the Constitution actually provides for. Now, the PDP has been in control of that state since 1999 until 2013, when the governor of the state defected from the PDP to the APC. Now, the question is, would you say because a governor defected from the PDP to the APC, that state automatically becomes an APC state? Difficult to tell, because some people would argue that, look, that the governor actually defected does not mean every member of the PDP in that state, or that the state automatically becomes a PDP state. So in terms of significance, of course, for the PDP, it's actually significant for them. They had always wanted to retain control of that state. It's one of the strategic states in the Niger Delta region. Besides, President Jonathan comes from that region. So some people have said, look, if President Jonathan had lost the election in that area, it would have been just too bad. But, quite a lot of things played out. The president's wife was also involved in this election. She had a role to play and all of that. But it still does not make the state more powerful than the federal government itself, because anytime there's a problem there, the federal government would have to step in, especially when it has to do with the relationship between, the state and probably the oil, multinational oil companies that are located there, Penina. Okay, so it is still in contention, like you said, but the winner, whoever that will be declared, Deji, will have to mediate between the multinational oil firms and the disgruntled communities who complain of environmental pollution and neglect. What new strategies does the new governor bring on board to solve this seemingly recurring problem? Well, first, the governor, there will be, when you talk about mediating between oil companies and, communities in the Niger Delta region, it's actually several layers. But, the most important negotiator or mediator in the whole process would be the government. I mean, just take, for instance, what happened in the Niger Delta region of the country back in 2005, 6, 7, when some militants decided to take up arms against the government and started blowing up pipelines there. The government actually negotiated with them. Of course, the governor will have a significant role to play, because if there were problems in his state, of course, he would have to be involved in the negotiation and mediation between communities and oil companies. But the fact is that the federal government would have the greater role to play. This governor is not a new person at all. I'm talking about Nyesom Wike. He had actually been, before he had a problem with the governor of the state, that the incumbent governor of the state, Rotimi Amechi, he used to be the chief of staff of Rotimi Amechi. So he understands the working and the way, negotiations and mediations are carried out. There's no question that he's in a better position to mediate between oil companies and communities anytime there's a problem. But again, the federal government has the biggest role to play here, because each time communities there have a problem with oil companies, the federal government would have to step in, because the oil companies are in those communities in the first place because the federal government allowed them to be there.
All right, Deji Badmas, let's leave it there for now. Interesting discussion. Deji Badmas live in Lagos. Now, Africa will have a population bigger than India and China combined by the end of this century. That's according to some estimates. While tourism, services and manufacturing sectors are booming rather, the World Economic Forum predicts entrepreneurship will be key to Africa's future prosperity. Business leaders have gathered this weekend at Stanford University in California to discuss how to support enterprising Africans. Tech business is one of targeted sectors. Jean-Louis Ekra, president of Africa Export-Import Bank, was among those championing Africa's agenda among Silicon Valley investors.
Many of the investor or potential investor in the Silicon Valley do not know Africa at all for various reasons. It's far. It's very far from where they are operating. It takes an average of 9 hours to fly from an African country to here. And second, because nobody is talking about Africa to them. So I think these type of events are very useful for that. The other thing is that you have young Africans who also are attending this event, and those young Africans are in those leading universities. We do believe that it will be very good for our continent to be able to count on this kind of knowledge and what they have learned from here. If they could bring it back to their country of origin, it will be a great achievement.
Let's look at commodity prices now. And gold dropped for a fourth session in 5 on Monday as the dollar firmed after fresh comment from Federal Reserve officials that the central bank could look at raising U.S. interest rates soon. Now, investors tend to shun gold, which does not pay interest when market expectations point to U.S. interest rates rising. Coming up, we explore the relationship between the Comoros Island and the popular fragrance Chanel 5.
Africa is not one country.
And Africa is not one story.
But as Africans, we do share one belief.
What more offensive in a world
that whatever the challenge, we will overcome.
CCTV Africa brings you unrivaled coverage.
From the fight against Ebola to the fight for greater freedom.
From the figures seeking your vote to the figures shaping your economy.
This is Guy Henderson reporting from the jungles of East.
And all the reasons to celebrate the diversity of life on this great continent.
Welcome back to Global Business, and now just something a little different. Ever wondered what the Indian Ocean island of the Comoros and Chanel No. 5 have in common? Well, the answer is ylang ylang, one of the most sought-after essential oils in the world. Comoros is the world's top producer of ylang ylang, which is a key ingredient in popular and expensive perfumes. Susan Mungeli has more on Grassroots tonight.
In this dense thicket, the small yellow flowers are barely visible between all the leaves, but their aroma is intoxicating. This is a field of ylang ylang, a key export for the tiny Comoros and a vital ingredient in some of the world's best-known perfumes. Ibrahim Bakar inherited this 8-hectare plot from his father and cherishes this year-round bloomer that acts as a source of income. But finding hands for the harvest can be tough.
It is difficult because the yield is small. When I explain the work to the young people, they think I'm crazy because we work so hard to produce so little. But when you have more than 1 or 2 hectares, you need the help.
Ylang ylang flowers easily, but requires constant maintenance. The flowers are sold and boiled for hours to extract the valuable essential oils. But only the first few drops are of a high enough quality for perfumes like Chanel No. 5 the best-selling scent in the world. The rest is exported for use in cosmetics and soap.
It pairs well with jasmine, and it's complementary. It's used in a lot of floral perfumes, where it's the best product in the bouquet. I myself use it in Sublime for Patou, which I created in 1992 and which still exists.
A kilogram of Ibrahim's flowers, however, sells for less than €1.
You supply 200 kilos of flowers, it should equal the price of a cow, €1,500 and not just €200. I know they make a lot with the oils. I take the little they give me. We'll see if it changes one day.
While other essential oils are threatened by the rise of synthetic products, the scent of this flower, at least, is difficult to reproduce artificially. Susan Mungeli, CCTV.
Let's look at the currencies now. In South Africa's rand fell to a two-week low against the dollar on Monday as the greenback firmed on expectations of higher interest rates, while weak Chinese trade data weighed on commodity currencies. Reuters reports that at 14:30 GMT, the rand was trading at 1.02% weaker. That's at 12.12 to the dollar compared with its closing level on Friday. The local currency was at its weakest level since March 31st. And before we go, here's what's coming up on Global Business tomorrow. Concerning Uganda, after the agriculture budget is cut, threatening operations at research institutions and projects aimed at encouraging young people to engage in farming. Plus, Ghana will not meet the June 17th digital migration deadline. That's according to its communications minister. The announcement comes after government assurances that the deadline would be met. Ghana experienced problems securing a loan facility to fund the move, which would cost $95 million. And that's it for now on Global Business. To send your feedback to Global Business Africa at cctv.com. You can visit our Facebook page, CCTV Africa. You can also stay in touch with Global Business on Twitter using the handle at CCTV News Africa.